As we approach 4 years, the loss of Kurt Thomas is still raw. It is still incomprehensible. But we do take some solace in days like today when we reflect on the amazing legacy of Kurt Thomas. Born in Miami on March 29, 1956, his father, a meat company manager, passed away when Kurt was only 7 years old, leaving his mother, Ellie, a secretary, to raise him. It was within those silver Blue Lake apartments where Kurt harbored dreams of a career in professional basketball or football. However, standing just 4'9" and weighing 77 pounds, that was unlikely. A.B. Grossfeld met Kurt for the first time at the National Sports Festival, assisted him with a double flyaway off the high bar. A.B. said Kurt was probably 13 or 14, but he looked like he was 11. So at the age of 14, Kurt's aspirations shifted away from basketball and football towards gymnastics after witnessing the Miami-Dade junior college team practice. Under the tutelage of coaches Don Gutzler and Bruce David, Kurt Thomas found his way to Indiana State University by happenstance when Roger Katzel was looking for a pommel horse guide. Kurt later recalled that the day that he had visited ISU must have been the most beautiful day in Terre Haute, Indiana history, because after that, it snowed for the rest of his time there. But Thomas later admitted that perhaps the weather kept him focused on his prize, which was gymnastics. Thomas was awarded a scholarship to Indiana State University, where he became a 5-time NCAA champion, winning the parallel bars in all-around in 1977 and parallel bars, horizontal bar, and the all-around in 79. Thomas led the Sycamores to the 1977 National Championship, and he earned 13 All-America honors in his career. But the best was yet to come. Dateline, Strasbourg, France, the year 1978, a day when Kurt Thomas etched his name among the pantheon of greats. On the morning of the floor final, Kurt battled flu-like symptoms and dizziness, which was particularly concerning because he had to perform the 1.5 twisting 1 3/4 salto. However, witnessing Nikolai Andrianov's major mishap provided him with a newfound focus. Kurt's jaw firmed and his head cleared, digging deeper than any champion wants to, but as deep as a great champion will. Kurt Thomas certainly had the chops to thrive under pressure, ultimately leading to a triumphant performance by the American. When it was all done, Kurt stood atop the podium with that historic World Championship gold medal. And as Kurt often said with pride, with a Soviet to my left and a Japanese to my right, Kurt Thomas had made history. At the 79 World Championships, Thomas secured an impressive 6 medals, including a gold in horizontal bar and floor exercise, a silver in the all-around parallel bars and pommel horse, setting a new American record for the most medals at a single world, later matched by only Simone Biles in 2018. Despite being considered a favorite for gold, the 1980 Summer Olympic Games in Moscow, the U.S. boycott due to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan prevented Kurt from competing. Now, I realize that the Eastern Bloc judging would have been a major obstacle, but that showdown between Kurt and Dityatin would have been a dandy. For me and many others, Kurt Thomas is still considered the unofficial 1980 Olympic champion. And maybe it's best that way, because we're really never ever going to know. But please allow me to share a personal anecdote. I had the pleasure of meeting Kurt Thomas for the first time during the tour of World and Olympic Champions shortly after the conclusion of the Barcelona Games. As the local talent for one of the tour stops, I found myself amidst the luminaries like Vitaly Sherba, fresh off of his 6 gold medals in Barcelona. But I wanted to meet Kurt Thomas first and foremost. During the warm-up for the show, I nervously introduced myself, expressing my adoration and recounting my consumption of all the articles about Kurt and the book and his illustrious career. I even referred to him as the 1980 Olympic champion. And in typical Kurt Thomas fashion, he accepted my words without correcting me. Simply shaking my hand and offering me a kind, "Thanks, kid, enjoy the show." Now, looking back, I couldn't have asked for a better response from Kurt Thomas. Despite the setback of the 1980 boycott, Kurt's dedication to gymnastics never faltered. His resilience was evidenced in his remarkable comeback attempt for the 1992 Olympic trials, a testament to his enduring passion for this sport. Kurt's post-competitive career included roles as a commentator. Man, these Freudian slips. He was a commentator for ABC Sports as well as ESPN, and the operation of Kurt Thomas Gymnastics Training Center in Frisco, Texas, with the love of his life, Becky. Additionally, the Kurt Thomas Foundation, established in 2002, continues his legacy by supporting underserved gymnasts and recognizing individuals embodying his work ethic. Now, amidst legendary Indiana athletes at the times of Larry Bird, Bruce Baumgartner, Wallace Johnson, it was Kurt Thomas's achievements that were recognized with the Sullivan Award in 1979, reflecting his unparalleled talent and competitive spirit. I can only hope Kurt Thomas is seeing this from somewhere this afternoon as he takes his rightful place within the CGA Hall of Fame. Thank you, Kurt Thomas, for your exceptional contributions to gymnastics. Your legacy will forever illuminate the sport, reflecting the brilliance of the gold medals you so rightfully earned. Let us take a look back at the great Kurt Thomas.
Soundstripe.
For the past 2 years, Kurt Thomas has been winning competition against the world's best gymnasts, an achievement that had previously been unheard of. Indiana State Gymnastics coach Roger Council says that Thomas's most important characteristic can be summed up in just 2 words: hard work.
Inducting Kurt Thomas into the Hall of Fame is a testament to the profound impact he made, a sentiment echoed by those closest to him. And no one was closer than the love of his life, the talented, the brilliant, the resolute Becky Thomas.
Thank you, everyone. It's been 3 years and 11 months since Kurt passed away suddenly. We were married for 24 years. It feels like it was yesterday. I can tell you, in typical Kurt fashion, he'd be very excited to be put in the order with the young guys over here. Particularly John and Blaine. He would be very excited to be close to when they get up here. But Kurt, as many of you know, was one of a kind by far. He would tell you how he feels without you asking. He had an opinion about everything, and he was the most giving and amazing man I've ever met in my life. For me, the easiest thing for me to ever talk about is Kurt, so excuse me for not preparing a speech, but when it comes to him, I feel like I could say so many things. For this afternoon with the CGA, I think what a lot of people need to know about Kurt was college gymnastics is what enabled him to become the champion that he was. A lot of people don't know this, but Kurt started gymnastics at 15. He started very late. He did try football, basketball, and most notably wrestling, actually. He was on the wrestling team and got a letter for wrestling. The coach said, nobody's in your weight class, nobody, so you don't have to wrestle. And Kurt said, well, don't you think I need to know something just in case there's somebody that I have to wrestle? And the coach was like, no. Nobody in high school is in the 80 or less weight division. So Kurt did an entire season of wrestling until the state meet, which happened to be held at his high school. And sure enough, here comes an under 80 pound force of nature. And Kurt said, the way he put it was so funny. He said, I'm telling you right now, he said it was in front of my whole school. He said it wasn't even like I could blink my eyes. It was 2 seconds, it was over, I didn't know what happened, and all of a sudden I realized everybody is staring at me as I'm laying on the mat. Got his letter, quit the next day. Started gymnastics 2 weeks later. But for Kurt, he was raised, as you mentioned, his dad passed away, was killed by a drunk driver when he was 7. He has 4 siblings. Kurt and his family were raised by a single mom. She held 3 jobs. There was no way she was going to be able to afford club gymnastics or anything even close to that at this time. So Kurt entered gymnastics in high school. They started a team. It was with the wrestling coach, believe it or not. Had no idea, no gymnastics background. As a matter of fact, a couple times he told Kurt, just try it. Just do the double back, just hold on twice. It'll be fine. Didn't work out well for Kurt at all. However, he ended up at Indiana State University. Now, Indiana State University needed a pommel guy. It was the only scholarship that Kurt was offered, the only one. And just like you had said, when he got there, he said there were birds chirping and everybody's throwing frisbees. Never saw that again. However, in that actual realm of college, he found a family of guys and a sport that he could never walk away from. Gymnastics to Kurt was like water to us. He lived it, he breathed it, he loved it. It was the history of the sport that meant so much to him, and it enabled him to excel at everything else in his life. Everything he did had that gymnastic space in it. It was that hard work, it was the perseverance, the pushing through injuries, the things that people don't like to talk about. You know, we're all about the medals and we're all about the accolades, but at the end of the day, this sport is so much more than all of that, and Kurt recognized that from a very, very, very young age. He, at Indiana State, rallied that team, and it became so important to him to stand with that group of men and show the other colleges that just because they were Indiana State didn't mean they weren't capable of being on the big stage with everyone else. So that time at Indiana State for Kurt was the only coaching that he really received at the time. So he's coming into a sport that he hasn't been in very long. He's got natural talent, but he received most of his coaching from Roger Council at Indiana State University. And those are the years that meant the most to him. Because of the background that he had and the way that he was raised and coming from a single mother, without that scholarship, Kurt would have never, ever been able to pursue gymnastics. It just wasn't going to happen. So the scholarship and the collegiate time enabled him to have a future. And it gave him something that nothing else could ever compare to. And I think when we look at men's gymnastics and we look at college programs, it's so, so important for us to remember the history, but for us to keep pushing for the future too. Because men's gymnastics is such an incredible, hard sport. I look at what you guys do, and I look around the room, and most of you I know, some of you I don't. I know you knew my husband. There are some of you that I will always cherish in this room that are lifelong friends, and you guys are my support system now and my children's support system now. And I really appreciate everything you guys do for the sport, for the colleges, for the men's program. It makes a difference, and every little bit helps. I will leave you with one more thing. Life is short. We all know that. We all hear that statement all of the time. But what matters most are the people around you. Always keep in mind that the people around you are your future, not your accolades, not what you've accomplished, but who you are, who you spend time with, and what you do with that time. Kurt was, he pushed the envelope all the time, and he made a lot of people uncomfortable, but in such an amazing way. And I look back on all the times that I followed behind him as a wife going, oh God, please don't say that. Oh God, please don't say that. You can't say that. You can't do that. You can't do that. Numerous times, and I mean numerous times. We got kicked out of Lamaze, we got kicked off American Airlines, we got kicked, numerous times. I look back on all of that and I think, you know, he's the guy that would just go for it. He would just go for it. He'd apologize later. But he was not going to hold back on what he wanted, how hard he worked, or what he did, not just for the sport, but in life in general. And if we all took a little bit of that, pushed the envelope a little bit, didn't settle, and actually went for things, everybody can get better, everybody can do better, and he was the epitome of that. So thank you so much for this award and for recognizing him, and especially in the inaugural class of the College Gymnastics Association. I'm so honored, our children are honored, and I know he is incredibly honored. And watching all of us today and smiling and looking around the room knowing that he's touched everybody in here at least a little bit. So thank you guys.